All right, so listen, I know for some of you, maybe you're already like a couple of you or half the room, who knows, a mix of a little bit nervous, maybe even a little bit offended because you're aware what the original words of that song are in certain places. And way to go, Jeremy, change it well. Did you catch a reference to Rennie threw in there too? That was so good. You're like, no, I didn't. Come back. We got another service. We're going to do it again. You can listen. And maybe some of you are like, can we do that song? Or others of you are thinking, great. He's going to talk about money. I knew I should have sat in a deer stand this morning and not come to church. I mean, that's what I thought. But anyway, so you're like, are you serious? We're talking about money? Listen, yes, kind of. But for those of you that would say, hey, I'm not nervous or offended, listen, I'm an equal opportunity offender. Give me time. I will get to you before the morning's over as well and do my best to ruffle your feathers. But I want you to know that today is not really about money. In all honesty, it's not. But your stuff, your money, your wealth, mine, ours, it makes up the pathway that gets us to what it is that we are going to talk about today, which is this. It is the health and the condition of your heart. And some of you, this might still be the face you have internally, even as I say that on your screens. You're like, So let me try to waylay a couple of possible just resistances this morning and some of the skepticism. First of all, I just want to be abundantly clear. Today is not about starting a campaign. A lot of times in the church world, when you start talking about money, it's to launch a capital campaign or a campaign of generosity. So I want to be clear. Today is not about a campaign. There is no campaign getting launched today. As a matter of fact, just say it with me. This is not... There you go. It's not a campaign. All right. Now, I also want to be clear that this is not reactionary today. This is not us reacting to things that are going on behind the scenes financially. Nobody's losing their jobs. There's no big budget cuts. This is not the staff wants a private jet to fly around in. The one we have is just fine. It works great. So there is, and this is what's so amazing right now, is a lot of times in the church world, when you start talking about money, it is because there's a problem, and you're trying to fix the problem, so we got to get more money. This is an incredibly generous community, and more resources will always accomplish more, for sure, but we're in a great place right now. At every church in the network, in the Fearless family, God has been blessing us through your generosity. So this is not a reactionary Sunday. There's no secret thing happening behind the scenes that we're trying to figure out or fix, and no staff are being let go, which again, I just want to say, I'm connected to a lot of different churches, and that is not the case, sadly, for many churches. Really good friend and good network of churches that I know on the other side of the state is probably about to go year 3 of making drastic budget cuts totaling millions of dollars. And I think it is an incredible gift from God that we're not in that place. So again, this is not a reactionary Sunday. The end of today, not going to be a fill out a card Sunday. Not going to ask you to commit to anything particular. Not going to ask you to go do something specific. Not going to ask you to sign a card, check a box. None of that's happening today. So again, just trying to waylay some of this. But let me also say this as well at the same time. Nobody gets a pass out of today. Some of you might have a tendency at some point as we talk money, wealth, possessions to go, not me, you're talking to the rich people in the room. See, here's the thing. When you talk about wealth, wealth is largely determined in comparison, right? It's what you have compared to what somebody else does or doesn't have. And when you take what we have as the average American household, I think probably many of us realize this, we are 90 to 95% wealthier than the majority of the world. So again, and you might go, well, that's compared to the rest of the world. I live here. I don't live in the rest of the world. So I also want to say this. I know that we're also in a time right now of real need and difficulty for some of us. As the government shutdown is affecting resources and SNAP funding, I know that there are some of us that this is a really difficult time. And as we talk generosity and the heart and what the heart has to do with all of it and the spiritual condition that it's a reflection of, this could be a little bit of a challenge today. So I want you to hear me say this loud and clear. This really is truly about your heart, not your stuff. And if you're at a place right now in life where you have a need and you're struggling, especially with everything going on with our government and economy right now, we want to know and we want to help. You know, I think we mentioned at the beginning of the morning, we have what we call the digital hub. It's a little disc on the fronts or backs of almost every chair in the room. You hold your phone by that, it brings up all of our online stuff that you can connect with us through, one of which there's a list on there that says care and prayer. If you have a need, if there's something we can help you with, or you're going, man, today is going to be hard for me because we're struggling right now, then would you go on there, go on the hub, care and prayer, let us know what it is that you're struggling with. If you would invite us into that, we want to kind of sit with you in that. We want to figure out how we can help as well. And last, I just want to say this. If you are not a follower of Jesus, I don't want your money. This is not me. Please hear me. This is not me trying to get your money. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to give anything. Here's what we want for you more than anything else. We want you to eventually give your heart to Jesus because he gave everything for you. And when you do, at some point in the process of that relationship, he'll tell you what to do with your money. You don't need me to. And the truth is, he may tell you to do something with it other than Ridgepoint. He may tell you to give it to another church or another place. That's a conversation you and him will have. But just know this, if you're still exploring faith, this is not the typical church just wants your money so we can get more things. We want you to give your life to Jesus because he gave his life for you. So, everybody excited? You ready to get into this now? Okay. Let me pray, and then we're going to jump in deeper. Jesus, thank you so much just for all that you have done to bring together this community. The passion, the talent, the creativity, the questions, the longings, the pain, everything that makes us a community, God. And so many more things. Thank you for bringing us together, and thank you for this morning. Thank you even as it's getting cold and the Christmas in the air, it is a reminder of how seasons come and go and seasons change. And God, so thank you for some of us right now. I just pray on behalf of many in the room that are in a great season. And for those right now that are hopeful for the season to change and a better one to come, I pray, God, that you would not tarry, that you would be close when seasons are painful and difficult. And Jesus, maybe above all, I would ask right now for your grace over my mind and my mouth as I attempt to speak on your behalf. Would my words be true to your scriptures, true to you, Jesus Christ? And would they be all and only about you, lifting up you and your name and your fame and your glory and no one else's, mine or any other person. And so, God, we love you. We need you this morning. I need you. And a subject that sometimes is like trying to convince a fish that it's wet, because this is the world that we swim in, God, of so much stuff and so much resource and how it's all tangled together with our heart. Would you do your good work, Holy Spirit, of speaking in a way that our minds and our hearts would hear and conceive and perceive what it is that you're trying to say in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, well, after that introduction, maybe this placement's weird, but we're going to take up our offering this morning. So it's where it's at every week. If you're here, you know that. So you, as I just said, are such a generous community, and so many ways we are able to touch lives and have an impact. And so I just want to say thank you. And if Ridgepoint's your home, you know how this goes. We're passing buckets. You do what is faithful and good for you and your family to do. And just thank you for all that you do. So, all right, let me really quickly say why I think this is important, especially because right now we're heading into a time of year where it's like all of the things around us, the voices, the marketing, the businesses are all going to be asking us to give money, spend money, pursue all kinds of things. So I think part of why this is important is the timing. But I think it's not just the timing, it's also something that's more transcendent than any particular moment of any particular year, and it's this. In all of the Bible, this entire book, from cover to cover, there is one command that trumps all of them. Do you know what it is? Yep, I'm getting little bits and pieces of it everywhere. That's good. That's good. Like 3 of us know the Bible. That's really good. Now, it is love the Lord your God with all of your, yeah, that's good. We get a C+ on that one. That's really good. And the second, Jesus once said, is like it. It is to love your neighbor as yourself. But when Jesus was once asked by the teachers of the law, trying to trap him because you had 613 different rules, different laws that you supposedly had to live by, so they're trying to snare him because if he says one's better than another, they go, ha, well, you're neglecting this one. And he beats them out of their own scam when he says, all of the law of the prophets hang on this one thing, to love the Lord your God with all of your, say it again. Okay, here's why today is important then, because the number one competitor for the affections of your heart is the stuff of this world. It is the money, The resources, the toys, the things, and the reputation that comes from all of it. The number one competitor for the affections of your heart is your stuff, which means you and I have one of two options in terms of how we live throughout this life. We will either love God and use money, or we will love money and we will use God. There isn't another option. And those are my words. Those are Jesus' words. In the book of Matthew, chapter 6, on your screen, some of you, this is not an unfamiliar passage. Maybe some of you, it'll be a bit of a refresher. Maybe some of you have never heard it before. But Matthew chapter 6, Jesus once said this: "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal." Verse 21, "For where your treasure is, there your," say it, "will be also." Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Skip down to the very end of the section, and he says this, verse 24. "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other." I think we would all agree on that, but the only two masters he gives that war for your devotion are to follow. You can either serve God or money. He gives no other list. He gives no other qualifier. He says there will be a war for your devotion in your heart, and it won't be 14 different things. The two primary things that will invite your affection will be the God who said he made you, loves you, and gave his life for you, and the stuff of this world. Which is why it is so important that on a regular basis, I think you and I learn how to do a bit of a heart check. Where is our heart? If it's true what Jesus says, that where our treasure is, there our heart will be also. Which is why you cannot serve two masters. You will either, I'm going to say it again, you will either love God and use the resources of this world, or you will love the resources of this world and use God, and typically then it will be use God to get more of the resources of this world. Why? Because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Which means, as a follower of Jesus, it is critical that a regular thing that we do in our practice of following him is figure out how to monitor this. Everything in this world does that. Our phones do it. Our AirPods do it now. Our watches do it. There are cars and steering wheels in certain cars that monitor your heart. Like everything is about figuring out how is your heart doing physically. We should do the same thing in a very spiritual sense as well. Matter of fact, on a physical note, my wife and I, probably one of the most impactful days of our life was 3/3/03. That's when our first kid was born, Tobin. 3/3/03, little Tobin came and joined our lives and just flipped everything upside down in a good way. But that becomes, for those of you that have had kids, you know, that's a significant day. Followed immediately by 3/4/03, which was one of the most horrific days we've had. Because on 3/4/03, the doctors at one point came rushing into the room, monitoring Tobin as an infant. Something didn't sound right. They're trying to communicate to each other. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Next thing we know, he's rushed out of the room. And we're hearing things about his heart, which if you're a new parent, it doesn't matter if they say the toenail looks weird. You're freaking out. But when they start talking about the heart, then you get really nervous. So we would find out very quickly that our son was born with a condition called VSD. Ventricular septal defect. He had 6 holes in his heart, in the lower part of his heart between the left and the right chamber. And so what the doctor would tell us over the next 48 hours is that could mean everything from potentially monitoring him for the next number of years and possibly even throughout his life to open heart surgery in the weeks to come. So thankfully, by God's grace and goodness, it never ended up being surgery, but we did have to monitor him. So here's a picture. Tobin's 22 now. He's 6'3", so this is not him. But this was Tobin's experience for many years of his life, having to go in for regular checkups because as your heart goes, so goes the rest of your life. There are a lot of things in your body you can lose and you can still live. You can lose limbs. I had a friend that got an infection this last year, went to the hospital for what he thought would be a routine surgery, woke up without a leg. So there are a lot of things that you can lose in your life, and you can still live a full life, not your heart. That's true physically. It is true spiritually. It's one of the reasons why I think the book of Proverbs, this is what we're told, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, that word everything in the Hebrew language where it was originally written, do you know what it means? Thank you. It means everything. There's a pastor joke for you. It means everything. There is nothing that comes out of your life that is not the product of what's happening in your heart, which is why Jesus says above all else, above all else, above all else, guard your heart. There are other versions that say because it is the wellspring. It's what produces the life that comes out of you that affects not just you, but the people around you. This is probably why, you know when Jesus taught, do you know what percentage of his teachings, from parables to teachings, had something to do with money, resources, and possessions? 40%. It had to do with the stuff that we try so hard to acquire in this life and the means by which we try to acquire it. And it wasn't because he wanted it. You know, it was said of Jesus in the Bible that he had no place to lay his head, meaning he was poor. He didn't have anything. He had no home. He had no stuff. He relied on the generosity of other people. It wasn't that he was trying to get our stuff. Here's what he's trying to do. He was trying to help us understand that there is an unhealthy entanglement that happens between our heart and the stuff of this world. That's why he says there's one of two things that will gather your affection in this world. It will either be me who created you or the stuff I created for you to utilize as a tool. But he talked so often about it because he realized what will happen in this life is there will be this unhealthy entanglement that will happen with your heart and your stuff. And his desire was to figure out how to help us figure out how to detangle that and put it all in its appropriate place so that we loved God and used the resources of this world. So my wife and I, when we moved a couple months ago, y'all have a junk drawer, right? I don't even know, where did the junk drawer even come from? Like, it just happens. Like, we moved into a brand new house, and we're like, no more junk drawer. We have a junk drawer again. I'm like, how did we have a junk drawer? There always needs to be a drawer that collects all the dumb random things that nobody knows where to put. Well, we had one drawer that got so full of cords and cables, and I don't know what this plug goes to. I think that's from 1975. Well, that's one's from the Atari. I mean, we just had like a mass of them that then got shoved in a jar because they couldn't fit in the drawer anymore. So when we were moving, my wife, Nicole, said, hey, babe, could you do this favor for me? What do you need? She goes, can you empty out the big jar of all the cords and figure out what's what? You're going to have to untangle them. You're going to have to figure out what ones we need, what ones we don't. Are all of our missing iPhone chargers, are they in there? And she said, could you take care of that for me? That would be a burden. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. So what I did is I shoved them all in the bag, put them in a box, and I moved them to Holland. So this is literally what we have. We even have bags of bags, but this is the mess of things. And are you kidding me? I actually been looking for this one. There's the iPhone 16 charger, babe. I should have went through the dang bag, but there it is. That's our stuff. Listen, here's the thing. Every single cord in here is currently useless, although it has a purpose. The problem is it's all tangled up into one big knot that really can't do much. And that's the problem with our hearts too often. Your heart has been made for a purpose. And it is to love God and to love others. But when it's tangled up and knotted with the stuff of this world, it doesn't do what it was made to do. And in effect, it becomes a bit useless because you can't function the way intended to function, love what you're supposed to love who you're supposed to love, how you're supposed to love, when your heart and your stuff looks like that and is all tangled up. And the problem with it being tangled up is that every single thing in this life, when your heart's tangled up with your stuff, is affected by it. Your self-worth, your identity, how you view God, how you view others, every single thing is affected in your life. That's why he says, guard it above all else. Why? It's the wellspring. Everything comes out of this heart, which is why it is so critical that it's not tangled up. Jesus made it really clear, back to Matthew, that when it comes in regards to our stuff, to our whatever your level of wealth is, be it great, be it small, that there's only one of two ways to live. It's to live for what's going to last, or it's to live for what's going to rust. What lasts is what he said in Matthew, is kingdom purposes. It's not that God doesn't want us to be wealthy, it's just wealthy in regard to the right thing. Or we can live tangled up which is not to live for what lasts and what is kingdom purpose, but to live for what's going to rust and what's going to eventually end up in a landfill. Back in college, probably like many of you, the one thing I had nothing of was money. I mean, I was a broke college student. I redefined the level of brokenness, I think. Came from 7 kids in my family. My dad, what he gave me for college was a thumbs up. He's like, good luck. And so I went to college, and I worked every job I could find, from coffee shops and cutting lawns and detailing cars and starting little things. And I had nothing. And so that meant that the one place that it demonstrated the most was in the crappy cars that I had to drive that constantly fell apart on me, which is also where I learned that while I was dating my soon-to-be wife at that point, she would have no mercy or sympathy whenever my cars broke down on me. But another story. So one day I had a car that I was driving. It was a Pontiac 300, piece of garbage, broke down, didn't run anymore. I'm like, what am I going to do? I need transportation. So I think we were engaged at this point, right? Remember the Dodge Omni? We were engaged. I remember us as always engaged. So keep that up for a minute. So my who would become my father-in-law, Nicole's dad, and her together surprised me by going out, because this is his hobby. He's worked for Chrysler for years, and so he always flips cars. So he goes and finds this Dodge Omni. I mean, mint condition. Thing was clean as a whistle. I think it was an older couple that owned it, put it in a garage every winter, had no rust on it, low miles. So he buys it for me and gifts it to me and says, here you go. If you're going to marry my daughter, you should at least be driving something decent. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Thank you. So super, super generous, super kind of him. I'm driving that thing down the highway one day to a new job interview, because I worked at a restaurant that paid me nothing, and I heard the Outback Steakhouse paid tons of money. So I'm like, I'm going to Outback. On my way to the interview, I am driving down this stretch of highway by an exit called Harper, where the freeway slopes down really steep. And I'm in the far lane on the right side going, I don't know how fast I was going, but there was a car going faster that did a 3-lane change to get to the exit. And in that 3-lane change, just clipped the front of my Dodge Omni, which sent me into a complete spin on the highway. I finally stopped my car on the highway, heart's racing. I'm facing traffic, but thankfully I'm over on the edge of the road. So somehow I spun right to the edge of the road. And I'm sitting there trying to collect myself, like just pressure, blood in my head, whole thing, like adrenaline. And then I feel this. And that car rolled down that hill 5 times. And I can still, if I close my eyes, I can still vividly picture all the glass shattering, roof caved in. Actually, crazy story, the brackets in my seat completely snapped so that my seat went flat and the roof caved in and smashed my steering wheel, which would have been my head had that not happened. So thing rolls down. When I remember it, I remember that it happened and I was conscious the whole time and then got right out of the car. However, there was an ambulance transporting somebody to the hospital that called for a backup. And according to them, a couple witnesses, I guess I sat there in the car for a while. So maybe I was knocked out. I don't know. I don't remember it. But I do remember distinctly at one point getting out of the car at the time that an ambulance had pulled up, had stopped, and was running down the hill. And the guy running down the hill is yelling at me, lay down, lay down, lay down. And he would tell me later on that he was concerned that I might have internal injuries, so don't be moving. Here was my concern. As I was driving to that job, I was also, Nicole and I were engaged, I was trying to save up every penny I could, so I was also making the horrible decision to move back home for 6 months from where I had been renting a house for college. So I had every single worldly possession I owned in that car. And so he's yelling at me, lay down, and I'm looking around, and every single thing, I mean, shirts, underwear, shoes, books, everywhere all over the highway and all over this lawn. And I'm just panicking. I can't believe this. And then I turn around, and here's the paramedic. And what he explained to me that he tried to do was he tried to put his hand on my chest and hand on my back and help me lay gently back down. But the momentum of going downhill, and he put his hand out, he basically just hit me in the chest and knocked me flat. I'm not kidding. And so I'm flat out on the ground. I'm awake now enough that I go back to my typical sarcastic smart mouth, and he just like bypasses all, like nothing just happened. And so he goes in his whole routine, he goes, does it hurt here? Does anything hurt? And I go, well, my neck hurts now, and that was it. Next thing I know, I'm like strapped to a board. They got this plastic thing on my neck. I'm rushing to the hospital. There's like 6 doctors and nurses, cut off all my clothes, probed me inappropriately. The whole experience was awful. All because I had to make a joke while I'm laying on the ground. Like, oh my gosh. But I'm thinking like, okay, so Matthew says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Well, this is a moment in my life that was more like where your Dodge Omni is, there your treasure is. Because like all of it was in the back of that car, and all of it, I'm not kidding you, I didn't have a box to take with me. I had the clothes I was wearing. So as I'm laying there in the hospital, they're cutting all my clothes off, and I'm thinking, this is all I have. So they get to my shoes, and I yelled at them, don't cut my shoes! So they thankfully untied my shoes, and then they give me this bag. You know how you get the bag at the end when you leave the hospital? They hand me a bag this big, and at that point in my life, everything I owned was in that dumb bag. My mom, true story, I don't know why she did this. She sews and she makes quilts. She took that bag with the sweatshirt in it that had blood on it, and I think 2 years ago she gave me a quilt, and that section of the sweatshirt was in the quilt. I was like, Mom, this is weird. I almost died in this thing. She's like, it was memorable. I'm like, that's bizarre. I don't want it anymore. But here's I want you to go back to the book of Proverbs for a minute. Here's what Proverbs chapter 23 says about our stuff. Do not wear yourself out to get rich, and do not trust your own cleverness. Why? Cast a glance at riches, and they are gone. For they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. I watched my stuff do that. I watched all my possessions sprout wings and go, whoo, and just fly away. Even when we went to the junkyard, there was nothing left to gather. Now, here's the funny thing. Even before I totaled that car, I never drove the car around and was like, look at me and my sweet Dodge Omni. I was more like, please hold together at 60 miles an hour on the highway. I mean, it was like, that was it. It was a great car, but it wasn't a masterpiece. But the funny thing is, there was a time and day that it was. So I was actually able to find this ad. Look at this. This is one of the original Dodge Omni ads. The versatile new Omni. And here's what's hilarious. I mean, not only was it not a cool car when I had it, it was even worse when I trashed it and put it in the junkyard, but there was a day that somebody bought that car, drove it off the lot, and showed it off to their family and friends, and were super proud of it. They're like, I know what you're all thinking. Versatile. Yeah, I mean, somebody was really proud of that car at one point. Where's it at now? Where's it at now? The same place every single thing you currently own will one day be. Rust and rot. It may not fly away during your lifetime, but at some point, everything you acquire in this life, everything, is going to end up in the junkyard. Even if it first ends up in somebody else's possession, it's going to eventually end up in the junkyard. Which is why Jesus says, guard your heart. Guard your heart. Because you can have your affections be wrapped up and tangled up in only one of two places. Me who made you, or the stuff I made you to use and to use as a tool. But you've got to guard your heart to figure out which it's going to be. So how do we untangle? That's the question. Especially because, I think I even prayed this earlier. I'll just speak for myself. Trying to convince me at times that I have a selfish bent or a problem with materialism and things is like trying to convince a fish that they're wet. It's the world that we, especially in the West, it's the world we live in, it's the world we swim in, it is our ocean. And so it can be really hard sometimes because what we'll do is we'll justify things in our heart against somebody that we think is more selfish, is more greedy, is more in love with stuff and money, and we'll kind of get ourselves off of the hook a little bit. But Jesus doesn't say compare yourself to other people. He says, no, ask who you're serving. Ask what matters most. Are you loving God and using stuff, or loving stuff and using God to try to get more stuff? And so thankfully, 1,400 years before Jesus even spoke these words, God was already trying to give a system to his people, a very practical system to try to do this detangling work. And I want to give you a couple of things that I think didn't just serve his ancient people, but I think serves us as well today. It's a bit of it's the spiritual watch. It's the spiritual heart monitor. It's the spiritual whatever you want to describe that tells us what this thing is doing physically. It has the ability to do that for our spiritual heart as well. Go back to the book of Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. You're not sure where that's at? Not a problem. We're going to put it up on screen. Deuteronomy says this. If anyone is poor among you, chapter 15, verse 7, and among your fellow Israelites, or anyone in the towns and the lands that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be, what does he say? Do not be hard-hearted. It's always about the heart. You got it. I mean, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, this is not a new idea for Jesus to say, guard your heart, guard your heart, guard your heart. Your heart and your stuff gets tangled up. It's always been about the condition of the heart. He says, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend to them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The seventh year, the year for canceling debt, is near, so that you do then show ill will toward the needy among your fellow Israelites and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Okay, here's monitor method number one, is to admit when you see selfishness in your heart. Any degree or any level of it. Here's what's happening here. God had initiated kind of an economic practice among his people called the year of Jubilee. So what would happen in the year of Jubilee is every 7 years, whatever debt anybody had was canceled. Didn't matter who held the debt, didn't matter who had the debt, didn't matter what the debt was for. Every 7 years, year of Jubilee, big celebration. You could imagine, could you imagine right now, 7 years from now, whatever debt is in this room, gone. It was a precursor to God kind of reflecting what would eventually happen on a much grander scale spiritually when the cross would give us the freedom of all things for all times from our sin. But this was a kind of a precursor to it and an economic way for his people to begin to thrive. Every 7 years, all debt canceled and gone. So what he's saying here in the opening of this passage is, if somebody comes to you and asks to borrow, here's the thought you can't have. Oh man, in 6 months, it's going to be the year of Jubilee. And if they can't repay me within 6 months, the debt gets canceled and I'm out of luck. Yeah, I'm not going to loan you anything. That's what he's saying. Even if you're right up against the year of the cancellation, you might think, well, that's just responsible thinking. No. Here's what he says. It's not responsible thinking, it's wicked thinking. He actually says to think that way is wicked and sinful. He says, that's not who my people are supposed to be. There is a radical generosity that should come out of my people, which should mark them entirely different from the ways, the standards, and the methods of this world and how we relate to each other. Even so much as if someone asks to borrow from you on the cusp of that loan being forgiven, your response is yes. And to do otherwise, he says, is wickedness. And it's sinful. He says, you have to monitor the selfishness of your own heart. I think step number one is for us to regularly look at our own heart and ask, is there a level of selfishness in my own heart? I'll answer for me, yes. Yeah. I've told you before, I grew up with very little. One of 7 kids, 2 handicapped parents. We were limited on what mom and dad could do and very limited on income. There were genuinely times where we prayed as a family for the next month, for food, for resources. There were times that we relied on the kindness and generosity of our church and other people. So I become an adult. I have my own things. I have my own life. I have my own means of income. And it becomes very hard for me at times to be generous with what I have. Because I remember what it was like to have nothing. And you should go, well, that should make you generous with everything. I have a tendency to hoard. I'm like, this is my things and it's my stuff. My son was sent to me to help break that, I think, because he takes my things from me all the time as if they all belong to him. But I'll admit, yes, there is a level of selfishness in my heart. Sometimes it's greater than other times. But there's a level of selfishness that if I'm not willing to regularly admit and own and face, guess what happens? The more I ignore it, the more tangled up it gets. The more unhealthy it becomes. This is one of the reasons why I think even in the book of Luke, Jesus gives such strong warning about guarding against any kind of greed that would come in, selfishness that would come into our heart. Book of Luke on your screen. And then he said this to them, watch out And be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Watch out and be on guard. Watch out and be. Why would you have to be on guard unless something's coming against you? Now, we know from other places in the Bible we have an enemy. There's a God. He has an enemy, which means we have an enemy. He's given many descriptors, but he's given one goal. He prowls around like a lion, seeking whom he may devour. To do what? To kill, to steal, and to destroy. Our lives, our hope, our future, our minds, our relationships, our intimacy with the Lord. That's his number one goal. Do you know what his number one lure is? All the stuff of this world. His desire is to destroy our lives. His primary lure is the stuff of this world, where he can get us from the scent of the things of this world to wander off from the one place that truly satisfies, and that is growing connection and affection with Jesus Christ. I've been sitting in the woods for over a month now, like some of you have. And I'm going to be sitting in the woods this weekend when the gun opener happens. And you know what my hope is? Is that all the lures I put out there are going to con some dumb deer into walking in front of me so I can hang his head on my wall. That's exactly what the enemy does for you. Is he throws out these lures in life. And most of them come in the form of your stuff, your money, the things you don't have yet. And it lures you. And some of us are not honest enough about the selfishness that still exists in our heart, and so we're falling victim to the lure. And it's also that he can cut your head off and hang it on his wall. Because he'll tangle up your heart with your stuff and lure you away from what actually and truly satisfies. Number one, I think God says to his people then and now, regularly look at your heart and just admit and be honest when there's levels of selfishness. Number two, is if we're going to admit selfishness, then we also have to confess when our heart is grudging. Go back to the text, and this is what we read. Next verse. Give generously to them, and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all of your work and everything you put your hand to. So here's the deal. Before you open up your hands generously to other people, what affects you is greed. After you do, what affects you a lot of times is grief. You're like, oh man, what did I do? I had a chance to go on a mission trip a couple of years ago to Cuba. Never been since, hadn't been before that. Was interesting to visit an economy and in a government like that, to be that up close to what socialism can do in that environment and just take from everybody, take everything. You own nothing. So we're there on all these building projects, which was super interesting. I used to bring down all my tools. I got in a habit over time of realizing we go to these third world places. I'm not going to put a house together with a screwdriver. So I'd bring all my power tools in hand. So I'd come down with 2-3 suitcases full of everything, and then we would just bring them back, and a lot of other guys would do it as well. Well, in Cuba, we're down there building and putting stuff together. We're helping do an addition on this church, and the pastor is just enamored with all of our tools. And so at one point I asked him, have you never seen a drill? Have you never owned a drill? He goes, well, I've seen them in pictures, but I'll never own one. And I thought it was because, well, it's too much money. And he goes, no, we're not allowed. He goes, I'm not allowed to purchase that. I can't. I'm not in a whatever class or however he described it. I'm not allowed to have one. So at one point I'm thinking, I can't go back home with all these tools. And this poor guy, I'm like, I can go to Home Depot any day and buy one of these, and this guy will never see a drill. So I felt really moved by God and again, I just told you, like, my stuff, like, I have a hard time with it. It's my stuff. And I felt really moved by God. Leave it. All of it. So I went to him one day and I was like, hey, listen, here's the deal, blah, 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 blah. And we're talking through the interpreter, and he grabs a drill, and he's like, starts crying. He goes, the drill? I was like, no, everything. And he's just like, we got this amazing embrace. I mean, it was such a sacred moment. The next day I woke up when we were flying back home, and I was like, what the heck did I do? I could have just left him one suitcase. I could have left. And then I get home and I walk into my garage and I'm like, what did I do? I told my wife, I'm like, I got to buy all new tools. She's like, wish for it for Christmas. It's like, no. So, I mean, it all started with the right intentions and the right motives. But once I was generous, as God says, without restraint to your people, because that should mark us as his followers uniquely different, The minute I did, I got struck with not greed, I got struck with grief. Like, I wonder if I should. So there are moments that even as you embrace generosity, as you embrace saying, God, nothing is mine, it's all yours anyways, that you have to realize that sometimes what will follow is moments of grief, where you're like, oh, okay, well, that kind of stunk. I wish that's not what I did. I'm going to confess that to you as well in this moment. It's a way to continue to monitor your heart. Monitor number 3 is this. Is that what we're going to choose to do instead of all of this is to have a generous heart. Verse 14, if you go back to the text. Supply them, say the word, supply them liberally. Not sparingly, not the little leftover you've got. He says when they come, when they have need, you supply them liberally, and you do so from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. Basically, you open up all that you have and all that you are and give to them as the Lord has blessed you. As the Lord has blessed you. See, the word liberally is key here because you and I were not born with a bent to be generous and to be giving towards other people. We're just not. The human bent is to hoard, is to keep, is to take, and is to give away the little bit extra, not liberally, not to give away from every area. But again, this is the mark of God's people. God's creating an entirely different standard for who his people are in regard to what it means to be tangled versus detangled with the stuff of this world. And some of you might go, well, you know, I am very generous. And some of you are. Some of you are incredibly generous with your money, but you're selfish with your time. And some of you are very generous with your time, but you're selfish with your stuff. And some of you are generous with your stuff, but you're selfish with your words. People don't feel often built up and encouraged around you or by you. The mark of a follower of Jesus, this is where this isn't about money. It is about your heart. It is not generosity just with your money. It is generosity with everything. That's why he says, from your sheep to your threshing floor to your wine press. He's saying this isn't about one thing. This is a generous posture of your heart in all that you are. And so a generous person following the footsteps of Jesus isn't just generous with one part of what they have possession and control over. They're generous with all of it, from their things to their time, to their tongue, to their mind, to their words. It's a posture that says, because I was given so abundantly too, I will be giver so liberally to others. And then last, I would just say this, is to practice a grateful heart. Finally, if you go back to the text in verse 15, here's what we're to remember. And he said this to the people then, but it applies to us. That you were once slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God redeemed you, and so this is why I give you this command. He says, here's the reason I'm commanding you as my people to be generous. Because I have been to you. Because I have been to you. Now this was a group of people that literally at one point were genuinely slaves to another empire, and God freed them, established them, made them a people of their own, a land of their own, resources of their own. But this is a problem all humanity has. Our Egypt is just called sin. It's the fact that our hearts are born into a condition of rebellion against God, where we are locked up into the slavery of an old life separate from the life God has for us and the eternity that he would destine us to. And what he did on the cross was to free us from that. What Jesus says to his people then and to us now is your posture of generosity and being untangled with the stuff of this world should be because of what I did for you, because of my generosity to you. And sometimes it's just way too easy to forget all that we have to be thankful for. To forget that we were hopeless, to forget that we were in despair, to forget that we could not change our circumstances, to forget that we were destined for destruction, and to forget that it was the cross and the cross of Jesus Christ that changed every bit of that for us. But when you live with an awareness constantly and a gratefulness of what has been done for you, what has been done for us, the natural response is to say, everything I have is not for me. It's for your glory and the benefit of mankind, to love you and to love others. Because of what has been done for me, I will do for others as well. It really is about the heart. It's not about your stuff. It's not about your resources. It's not about all the other things that we have a tendency to make it. It is about our heart. And the more that we grab hold of this, I think the more that we grow up into who God wants us to be. Let me give you one last verse. Psalm 24:1 simply says that the earth and everything in it is the Lord's. Again, Hebrew lesson, word everything means? Bingo. That means you don't own anything. You're like, I mean, I've worked hard. I paid the bills. Well, then you disagree here. Because the earth and everything in it is his. You know, Paul once said, when I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, but when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. You know how a child thinks? Mine. You know how an adult thinks? A mature adult in Jesus? His. He owns it all. Me, the earth, and everything in it. And when we live with that kind of an awareness and a thankfulness, our postured heart will be untangled from the stuff of this world and towards the people around us instead of just for ourselves. So God, would you, I pray, do your good work, even now and in the days to come, to let this ruminate in our hearts and minds. This being your words to your people generations ago, to your people just 2,000 years ago, and to us today, that we would be a different kind of men and women in this world. The kind of men and women that embrace a kingdom that in many ways is upside down to how this world lives. Because you, our King, gave up your kingdom once for us. And so God, help us to see the places where our heart, for the sake of our spiritual lives, can be healthier. Not about our stuff, but about our affections towards you, that you and you alone, Jesus Christ, would be all that we are tangled up in. And it's in your name I pray. Amen. Listen, you may not have everything in this world that you want, but if you have Jesus, and this is the song we'll end with, nothing else matters as much.
Will you stand with us as we continue to worship? I'm caught up in your presence. Oh, I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I opened up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just want to sit here nothing else for you. We're coming back to what really matters. Nothing else for you. Oh, Jesus, you're all that matters. You're all that matters, Jesus. We're coming back to what really matters. Take me back to my first love. Oh, caught up in your presence. I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. I'm not here. No, I'm not here for blessing. Come on, church. Jesus, you don't owe me anything, and more than anything that you can do, I just want you.
I just pray, Jesus, that's our prayer. God, that's my prayer for me, is that nothing else but you would really matter. And the honest truth is, God, too often other things do. And I just pray that you would continue to transform my heart, that truly less and less of anything else would matter. No gold, no glory, just you and you alone. And for all of us, God, would that continue to be true? Would we be able to sing those words with truth and integrity, that nothing else matters but you? And do the good work of evaluating our own hearts from time to time to see if in fact that is true, and then to reorient our affections back to you where maybe they have wandered and become tangled up with something and someone else. Thank you that you're gracious and patient, and that the work you started in us, you'll finish, and along the way, you will be kind as we continue to stumble and live foolishly as we pursue you. So wrap our hearts up, I pray, God. Entangle our hearts with yours above all else. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, as you walk out this morning, two quick things. One, the first weekend of December, we have baptisms coming up again. So if you have been thinking about baptism, not been baptized yet, we would love to have you sign up. You can go to the hub, again, on your phone. Right up there at the top of the list is a place for you to ask questions, sign up. We will get back to you within the week. Also, tomorrow night, you're probably getting tired of hearing all the correspondence from me on this one, but we have let you know a few times now. We have an event tomorrow night that will be the first of its kind since I've been here, where we're going to share a little bit about the future, some current updates and things that we're doing and dreaming about, what we think God has given us to not just celebrate, but what he has given us to also work towards in the years to come. So tomorrow night, I would love to have you back in this room with us. It'll be a good time, a fun time, a vision casting time, a time of locking our arms and saying, how do we do this all together, and some steps that we think God is calling us to take in the immediate. So come back, be with us. We would love to celebrate and love to dream with you tomorrow night. But if you could help us by registering, if you're planning to come, again, you can do that on the hub. There's a spot for it right up at the top of the list. That will just help us plan appropriately for food. But otherwise, go this week, monitor your entanglement, and may Jesus and Jesus alone be what tangles up our hearts. See you tomorrow.